Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I'll try to continue the first lectures regarding in the nutrition and metabolism. This is my email. You can contact me using my email, and you can use my channel as well. So the learning objective of these lectures. By the end of this course, the student should know the appreciate the significance of macromolecules, recognize the significance of mono, di, and oligosaccharide as well as the polysaccharides, describe the process of digestion and absorption, describe the glycolysis. So, what's a nutrient? The nutrient are any ingested chemical used for growth, repair, and maintenance. This is a simple definition of nutrient. Any molecules that can be ingested, chemical molecules that can be ingested and used for growth, repair, or maintenance. Yeah, you can use some ingested chemicals. They cannot use for growth, and that's not a nutrient. So, what a major class of nutrient? Water, carbohydrates, lipid, protein, minerals, vitamins. These are mainly the major classes. Macronutrient must be consumed in a large macromolecule. Macronutrient should be used as a large amount, whereas the micromolecule we use it less amount. When we talk about the macronutrient, we talk about the protein, fats, carbohydrate, nutrient board. When I talk about the micronutrient, we need a small amount, like vitamins and minerals, essential minerals or trace elements. Essential nutrients are those the body cannot be synthesized. When we say essential, that means should be supplied in our diet. Non-essential nutrient we can synthesis. For example, we can synthesize some amino acid. That is not essential amino acid. We call it non-essential. If the body can synthesize, we say it non-essential. But if essential, that means should be supplied in the diet. Minerals, vitamin, 8 amino acid, and omega fatty acid must be consumed in the diet. We call it essential nutrient. These are needed to maintain optimal health and prevent chronic diseases. These nutrients should needed to maintain the optimum health and prevent chronic diseases. Let us see for adult requirement. Adult human require about 10 to 12 megajoule. That is about 2,400 to 2,000 or 3,000 kilocalories from metabolic fuels each day. 1 calorie equal 4.18 joules. That is adult requirement. From this energy, we needed to come from 40 or 6% from carbohydrates. 3 to 40% should be from lipids, and the remaining should be from protein. 1 gram of carbohydrate provides 4 kilocalories, about 17 kilojoule. Yes, 1 gram of carbohydrates provides 4 kilocalories. That's when we use it for calculation of the calorie we need. 1 gram of protein gives 4 kilocalories, 17 kilojoules, the same like carbohydrates. But fats give 9 kilocalories, 37 kilojoules. So the fats provide much more energy. This is kind of MSQs have questions that come from the exam. How calorie, how many protein give carbohydrates and fats. In starving state, glucose spread spared for use by the central nervous system. And what does it mean? When we are in starvation, our energy comes from all of these carbohydrate, protein, and fats. But the nervous systems and erythrocytes only use glucose for their energy. So in starvation, we spare nitric glucose for this brain and erythrocytes. Carbohydrates. What is it? These are the most abundant organic molecules in nature, providing a significant fraction of the energy in the diet most of organisms. Most of the organisms use the carbohydrate to provide energy, acting as a storage form of energy in the body. So we store carbohydrate as glycogen. Glucose is the fuel used by the cells to make ATP. As I told, nutrient and RBCs almost rely on the glucose. Excess glucose is converted to glycogen and fat and stored. That's where glucose, for example, they can be converted to glycogen. More glucose, they can also convert carbohydrate, can convert to fat. This is why when you eat some rice, some carbohydrates, you can get fat. You can deposit fat in your body. So the carbohydrates go to them, can be stored as the fat. So please don't eat much more chocolates and rice and carbohydrates. So as a function of the carbohydrate, serve as the cell membrane component that is mediate some form of intracellular communication. Yes, some carbohydrate mucopolysaccharides used as the receptors in the cell membrane. Even some viruses may be use it as a receptor. I don't know. Coronavirus, they can use it or not. Serve as a structure component of many organisms. They can use as structures, including the cell wall of bacteria. The exoskeleton of many insects used by carbohydrate. The frame of the insect. And the fibrous cellulose of the plant. Cellulose considered as the framework of the plant. That is some what we call it food pyramid or calorie pyramid, based on as the upper you can use. It's not a this is some choice based on the sensing position. It's important of the food. Best carb is the down, and we go the bad carb at the bottom. Unfortunately, use or they prefer the as the top of the pyramid because it is a junk food. It's a taste food. Dietary source: starch, complex carbohydrate, grain and vegetable, sugar in fruits, sugar cane, sugar beets, honey, and milk. They can contain source of carbohydrate. Insoluble fiber includes cellulose in the vegetable, provide refugees. Soluble fibers, pectin in apple and citrus fruit, reduce blood cholesterol. That's claiming that they can reduce the cholesterol. It's anyway, fruit is good for your health. Carbohydrates, yes, can be classified simple, complex. Simple, monosaccharide, disaccharides. Example for monosaccharide: glucose, fructose. Please, I will just go in running to cover this part because it's already we talk it in the semester 2. Dietary carbohydrates, energy for as I told you 4 kilocalorie, carbohydrate and relative fattening, monosaccharide, glucose, fruits, fructose found in together with glucose, because sucrose. You know, this hydrolysis of sucrose will give you glucose and fructose. Disaccharide, sucrose, lactose, maltose. Sucrose composed of glucose, fructose, lactose, glucose, galactose. Please just try to read this. Polysaccharides, we should have talked about the polysaccharides that include glycogen, starch, cellulose. This is most common of polysaccharides. So the storage form of carbohydrate in animal is glycogen. In plant is starch. Fibers also include as polysaccharides. Dietary fiber is very important. Non-digestible carbohydrate present in the intact in the plant. It is resistant to digestion and absorption in the human small intestine, but is completely for partially fermented to short chain fatty acids in the large, and that's very sometimes important for when you use the fibers for constipation and diarrhea. Function of the fibers. That's the function of the fibers. Can absorb 10 15 times its own weight is the water, drawing fluid not ending of the intestine, increasing the bowel motility. So it's very important for elder people because they can make motility of the bowels. Soluble fibers, gastric empty and result in sensation of the fullness. When you take some fibers, you feel that you are. Yes, sorry for these interruptions. Fibers, they can think that sometimes they can reduce the cholesterol. The recommended dietary fibers take is just 25 grams per day for women, 38 grams per day for men, and need more fibers. Digestion of carbohydrate begin in the mouth, so please I will be in hurry in this time. The major dietary source of animal glycogen, starch, and protein. During mastication, salivary amylase start to digest, and after that we go for the stomach. The breaking down short chain of alpha 4 bond. That's where further digestion starts. After the pancreas enzyme occurred in the small intestine. So many enzymes, pancreatic amylase, break down the starch. So that's enzymes used for digestion of carbohydrates in small intestine. Please, you should know lactase used for break down lactose to glucose, sucrase to break down the sucrose to the glucose and fructose. You should be familiar with this. CDS, and that's gone. Thus the digestion starts in the buccal cavity by salivary amylase. They go down into small intestine. No digestion start in the stomach. So for digestion, polysaccharide will be digested to the small molecule as a monosaccharide. That's the end of digestion. Monosaccharides can be absorbed through the intestinal wall to go for hepatic portal vein to go to the liver, then they go for metabolism, mainly as a glucose. That's the absorptions. However, the lactose are transported to the mucosa. It is a so the transport into the mucosa through the intestine is a active energy requirement. So they need energy that require a current uptake of sodium ions, transporter proteins, as the sodium dependent glucose transporter, SG.1. So they need active transport. That's kind of how can be absorbed monosaccharide glucose to the human and they go like that. Fructose require sodium independent monosaccharide and use the GLUT5. All these monosaccharides are transported from the intestinal mucosa cell into the portal circulation by the another transporter called GLUT transporter 2, hepatic portal vein. Requirement for carbohydrate, RDA, requirement, dietary allowance. So the RDA for carbohydrate is 130 grams per day for adult. That's a need. Adults also consume as 45 to 65% of the total calorie from the carbohydrates. So that I told you before. Simple sugar and diseases. There is no direct evidence that the consumption of simple sugar is harmful, but generally sugar is harmful. For example, when we need glucose for the energy, but if you use some sugars, when you with what we call is the white sugar. أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم وصانا بعدنا عن الأبيضين. الأبيضين هو الشوجر والسولت. Diet is high in sucrose do not lead to the diabetes and hypoglycemia. That high in sucrose leads to diabetes and that's claiming. Yes, this I put this part because some people they think that it's a direct with a link between the sucrose and diabetic. Diabetic, generally, if you have no defect in your insulin, hormonal secretion, or receptors, you will never get to become diabetic mellitus because insulin they lead to break down the glucose to help in entrance of glucose inside the cells. So, however, association between the sucrose consumption and dental care and this way, sometimes there is a problem with the dental. But this, look at this food, it's a junk food mainly. Yes, there's some disease called lactose deficiency. Some infants they cannot digest milk, they cannot refuse to take the breast milk. This is due to lactose deficiency. Their body have a deficiency of lactose. Lactose is very important to break down lactose to the glucose and the lactase. We call it lactose tolerance. More than 3/4 of the world adults are lactose intolerant. So mainly the diagnosis, you measure the lactase enzymes, and the prevention is to use lactose-free milk, to use the lactose diets. Diagnosis, oral tolerance tests with individual lactose, measurement of hydrogen gas in the breath, and this is very important because the bacteria, when they increase much more hydrogen gas. Treatment, reduce consumption of the milk or use some formula that free of the lactase. Sometimes we say use lactase treated products. Sometimes you use some enzymes, lactase products that they can break down the lactose. Take lactase pill. So that's the end of this introduction to the carbohydrate. Inshallah, next time we'll have another